Hello, welcome to Rope In Mental Health. I'm Garrett Kennedy, mental health consultant. So I'd like to talk a little more today about when we can use calming strategies. And last video, I had mentioned that the really first and second times to use common strategies are to set routines. So at the beginning of the day, at the end of the day, to set yourself up for success, as I mentioned. Then we have the middle of the day, that area where things do come up and you might find yourself or the people that you're trying to care for becoming a little bit more agitated, a little more yellow zone. They're moving from green zone productive, working towards the communal goals or working towards the task at hand, and they're moving to an area where it's harder for them to focus on work. I mean, we've all been there. It can be from I'm bored to I'm jealous that I want to be on vacation to whatever it is that we feel in the day that makes us feel like, this task can wait. It's that procrastination that comes up. That would be the behavior we might start seeing is that procrastination. There are other behaviors that you will watch for to see if the emotional need is going from that green to yellow. And just like a traffic light, if everybody's in the green zone, both the adult driving or the person in charge, whether you're working on self-control or you're working on control to help people, to help children that are home and outside of their normal routine, whatever the case may be, you have to be mindful of the emotions involved in the situation. So we're looking at green zone being everything's good to go, right? As things move up to yellow, yellow doesn't mean go like hell. Yellow means let's slow down, stop if we can, if it's safe to do so, right at the very first indication that some yellow zone emotions are coming up. And this is so we can avoid a problem. And what we're looking for in this system of really mindful care or mental resiliency building is trying to set up for success for the next step. So if we see a child starting to struggle, that's when we intervene. Now, part of that can just be reminding them, hey, get back to work, or what are you thinking about right now? And snap a child out of a daydream, that mental escape. By the way, daydreams are a whole nother fascinating place that we can go in another video. Daydreams are one of the best fidgets around, one of the best regulation devices. But again, sometimes it's not acceptable to sit there and daydream just because you're bored or you're anxious about the task at hand. When we're looking at children in a school setting who are working on problems, oftentimes we'll see this avoidance behavior. Daydreaming, getting up to go to the bathroom, asking for extra breaks, and people can look at this as defiance. However, you really have to look at the context of the situation. You have to look at how is that child doing. You have to basically listen. Bring up your concern because that's your right as the one driving this interaction. Bring up a concern as soon as you see it. If you see a child starting to show some avoidance, or if you yourself are avoiding projects because it's just making you emotionally unsound or you're not feeling safe, either you're going to start engaging in an unhealthy coping mechanism, avoiding work, using whatever your substance is, or in terms of helping the children that we're now helping at home, helping them find structure in a day that may feel very unstructured all of a sudden compared to what they're used to. So the first thing that we have to look at is being mindful and aware of the child's normal behaviors and knowing how they react to those initial cues when they first start going into those yellow zone behaviors or those yellow zone moods. We have to start addressing it right away. Listen is the first response, okay? So if the child's or if you are not acting the way that you would like, really listen to see what the problem is. Be kind while you're listening and don't just negate the emotional reason for the behaviors. You have to validate these emotions, and you might find yourself quite surprised. The child might not be avoiding homework and repeatedly asking, say, I don't want to finish this because I want to phone grandma, or I want to phone mom, or I want to phone somebody I haven't seen for a while. The child definitely wants their expressed wishes as far as phoning that person, and you can use that as goal setting. Maybe a first then. Again, how to deal with that situation is going to depend on you and your child, but the initial time they bring these things up is the time that we really want to listen to what they're saying. Because it may not just be that they want to talk to the person they're asking to phone to avoid the homework. It may be that they're expressing feelings of loneliness and social isolation from their friend group or from their loved ones that they haven't seen in a while. And you can get into a wonderful healing conversation about that, even if that is a great concern. Let's deal with this task first, then we'll deal with that concern because it's really important, and we can do a better job of it after we finish this task first. So you try some kind of a redirection, or you try to, however it works with the people in your world, whatever coping mechanism is acceptable for that situation, you would implement immediately as soon as you see those yellow zones start to show up. Now, it's normal to miss those cues. It's normal to get into a little bit of headbutting. You have to be mindful of your own emotions and realize when you're not doing that listening part, or when the child isn't being let to listen themselves. You know, they need that time to listen and process your request so that they can change their emotional needs back to the task at hand, which is ultimately what we're looking at. If you miss these and things escalate further, we really want to track what is it that's making the situation worse so we can avoid it in the future, or so that we can figure out a way around that or through it, as the case may be. But we want to see how far up towards, say, yellow zone to red zone, because as these things progress, children will, or adults even, will get more and more and more excited until we have outburst reactions and what we call red zone, or out of control emotions, where people are overwhelmed in the situation, laughing hysterically, or generally working really antisocially in any means of the word. So we want to avoid the red zone because it is out of control, and there's very little that can help correct that situation short of letting it run its course. Again, there are other ways of dealing with red zone. Right now, we're looking at when in the green zone do we look at those corrective actions. So my answer to that would be setting set times throughout the day to check in to make sure that the day's goals are being met and the day's tasks are being completed as required. Setting up daily tasks also sets structure for the day. It may seem a little anal, and I know you've heard from self-help books for a long time. Most successful people in the world use lists. Well, part of the reason that that's so successful is that that list gives structure. That structure lends itself to stability, which gives us an emotional sense of peace and productivity towards the day. So I strongly suggest setting yourself up for success, reinstigating any kind of routine that's lost because of the change in social isolation that happens day to day. Try as best you can to include exercise and physical health breaks along with mental breaks throughout the day. Combining these into one is great. That's what yoga is, right? Doing it for 20 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes even. Think about your school day. We don't have children taking breaks willy-nilly throughout the day. Even in the worst case scenarios, we're expecting maybe a 20-minute break at the beginning of the day, middle of the day, end of the day, and then actual productive work, however we define it, throughout the rest of the day. This is not overbearing for many children, and even though we should be giving them a break from school, I don't believe all children will benefit from a loss of structure to their day. So as the adults in our worlds, whether you're dealing with children at home or you're dealing with more personal issues of, say, self-harm or substance abuse, which arguably is self-harm. If you're looking at dealing with stresses in new ways and experimenting with new coping strategies because your old coping strategies are no longer available to you, I really do strongly suggest that you start with morning, afternoon, a midday check-in, and then learn to watch the behaviors of the people you're caring for. So it's going to be a nonverbal communication. You're going to have to listen on an emotional level and really be kind in your responses so you don't get into an argument, but you get into a productive use of problem-solving skills using the calming strategies for that situation. It goes a lot quicker than I just said. It can look as simple as, Billy isn't doing his homework. You ask him about why he's not doing his homework or what he was just daydreaming about, and he expresses some daydream about playing soccer in the park the way he used to. And you can have a short conversation about the feelings of what it is to lose social connection, because social connection is one of the mainstays of mental health and mental resiliency, and that is going to have to be redefined a little bit in the near future. So dealing with that on maybe a 2 to 5 minute conversation is well worth your while. Calming the child if they're starting to get emotional, talking about things in a calm, rational manner, role modeling how, these are scary times, and I do understand how we used to play soccer all the time, Billy, yet that is a thing we're going to have to deal with. Maybe we can work on that later and make a real solid plan. But for right now, how do you feel about first finishing this work, and then I'll sit down with you and the two of us will really make a solid plan on how to keep soccer and your soccer friends in your life. Right? You're taking what might be 20 minutes, a half hour of arguing into a 2 or 3 minute discussion that acknowledges and validates the emotions of the situation and then sets up a time to resolve that issue in time, thereby setting priorities. So implementing these systems can be very smooth and fast. It does take some practice. Ultimately, it boils down to listen, be kind, and have fun. Those 3 simple rules will help you rope in mental health in your world and hopefully help spread the calm. Thank you all for listening. Have yourselves a great day.